It's amazing to see how much you love each other already. Perfect. We are going to continue, and I will start with an apology because, sorry, I said it wrong. Actually, Małopolska region helps a lot OMG Krakow, but this event is financed by the city of Krakow. And actually, we have a wonderful lady here amongst us, that is Magdalena Wichniak, and she is going to officially open the event with her wonderful speech about the Krakow environment that she is providing and the city is providing for all the businesses here. So please warmly welcome the Deputy Director of Innovation here in the city of Krakow, Magdalena Wichniak.
Hands together.
Dzień dobry, witam wszystkich bardzo serdecznie w imieniu miasta Krakowa, w imieniu prezydenta i swoim własnym. Mam tu ładne przemówienie, które chciałam Państwu wygłosić, a potem powiedzieć kilka słów od siebie. Kraków już od lat postrzegany jest jako ośrodek nowoczesnych technologii, rozwijającej się gospodarki, nauki i kultury. Rozwinięta przedsiębiorczość, różnorodny, dynamiczny rynek pracy sprawiają, że powstaje tu wiele innowacyjnych pomysłów. Wydarzenia takie jak to potwierdzają tę tezę i to, że właśnie w atmosferze współpracy wiedza i entuzjazm tworzenia przenikają się pomiędzy różnymi podmiotami. A przy tym współpraca z organizatorami wydarzeń w ramach festiwalu oraz spotkania z ich uczestnikami nie pozwalają nam stać w miejscu. Te spotkania mają dla miasta wielką wagę. Przedsiębiorczość wpływa na rozwój społeczno-gospodarczy i kulturalny kraju i regionu, a prężnie działające przedsiębiorstwa przyczyniają się do poprawienia sytuacji ekonomicznej, a przez to zwiększenia jego atrakcyjności dla mieszkańców i inwestorów. Miasto zamożne to miasto przyciągające ludzi z zewnątrz, co stanowi dość istotną kwestię w dobie kryzysu demograficznego. Z drugiej strony warto wspomnieć o kreowaniu wizerunku i charakteru miasta. W budowaniu marki innowacyjnego i biznesowego ośrodka miasta nowoczesnej gospodarki bardzo się przydaje silne środowisko startupowe. Festiwal organizujemy już po raz 5. Trwające przez 7 dni święto młodych innowatorów wpisało się mocno w krajobraz miejski, podobnie jak wpisały się weń organizacje wspierające i rozwijające startupy. Od początku naszym celem było zbudowanie sieci współpracy takich środowisk z miastem, a festiwal, podobnie jak otwarte konkursy ofert i inne wspólnie organizowane przedsięwzięcia, miały służyć wzmacnianiu naszej współpracy. Miasto należy do nas wszystkich, co oznacza, że wszyscy jesteśmy za nie odpowiedzialni i z pewnością bardziej przyczynimy się do jego rozwoju, działając wspólnie. W tym roku 6 organizacji przygotowało 37 wydarzeń, które odbywać się będą w całym Krakowie. Od Śródmieścia przez Zabłocie po Nową Hutę. To także dobry sygnał. Życie startupów nie skupia się w jednym miejscu, ale pomaga w rozwoju różnych części miasta. Dziękuję bardzo organizatorom, trenerom i wykładowcom, wszystkim, którzy zaangażowali się w uczynienie festiwalu Start KRK szczególnym wydarzeniem i sprawili, że ten tydzień w Krakowie będzie pod znakiem startupów. Ze swojej strony chciałam Państwu zapowiedzieć nasze plany na przyszły rok. Miasto przygotowuje, mam nadzieję, że wspólnie ze środowiskami startupowymi, biznesowymi, z przedsiębiorcami, program rozwoju gospodarczego na kolejne lata. Ponieważ dopiero tworzą się te założenia, mamy nadzieję na tą współpracę i sygnał środowiska dla miasta, co jest potrzebne, jak ten program powinien być skonstruowany, a dodatkowo z drugiej strony istotnej w tym rozwoju, czyli patrząc od strony współpracy z ośrodkiem naukowo-akademickim, chcielibyśmy, żeby te 2 programy powstawały wspólnie, bo też wpływ środowiska naukowego na rozwój gospodarczy miasta jest bardzo istotny. Także te 2 programy w przyszłym roku będą nabierać już, mam nadzieję, konkretnego kształtu. Pewnie też część z Państwa słyszała o projekcie miejskim, jakim jest Klaster Innowacji Społeczno-Gospodarczych Zabłocie 2022. Jest to projekt miejski, który docelowo ma stworzyć taką przestrzeń dla startupów, ale nie tylko. Mamy nadzieję stworzyć przestrzeń, która będzie tyglem, w ramach którego będą się mieszać różne przejawy życia miasta, po to, żeby inercja była większa, żeby efekt był głębszy i bardziej odpowiadał potrzebom rynku, potrzebom odbiorców, potrzebom mieszkańców. Ten projekt jest w tym momencie na etapie inwestycyjnym, to znaczy ogłosiliśmy przetarg i czekamy na oferty przebudowy 2 obiektów magazynowych. Mamy nadzieję, że 5 listopada wpłyną oferty i będzie można wybrać wykonawcę, który do końca 2021 roku wyremontuje te obiekty. Ale to proces inwestycyjny swoją drogą, a prace, które będą trwały w tym okresie, kiedy będzie trwała budowa, to jest kwestia skonfrontowania ze środowiskiem między innymi startupowym, funkcji, jakie to miejsce powinno pełnić, bo na razie jest opisane są nasze wyobrażenia miasta, a dla sukcesu tego przedsięwzięcia istotne jest, żeby wiedzieć, jak powinno funkcjonować, żeby mogło osiągać efekt i osiągać tę synergię, na którą liczymy, czyli dać możliwość rozwoju i środowisku startupowemu, i kwestii społecznych, i organizacjom pozarządowym. Także myślę, że wkrótce będziemy Państwa do takiej dyskusji zapraszać i takie konsultacje będą się odbywały. Dziękuję bardzo i życzę całego udanego, bardzo ciekawego tygodnia startupowego. Wszystkiego dobrego.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that very colorful and big introduction. I don't know if I deserve all that, but I do want to add my humble value to this ecosystem. But really, I want to start off with a classic Krakow story with a 21st century interpretation. So as all good stories, there are many retellings, but it goes something like this. Many, many years ago, under the reign of King Krakow, the founder of the city of Krakow, the city had a problem, a challenge. There was a terrible dragon who was generally terrorizing the population. And attempts to defeat the dragon with classic methods were failing. And it was only when a very creative, original, and innovative solution was developed that the dragon was finally slayed. Krakow's first hero was an innovator. My point here is that Krakow needs to iterate on its myths and produce new ones relevant to today's world. It's why we named our early stage startup pre-accelerator program Dragon's Cave, but instead of fighting dragons, we're fighting with the market. And the demo day of that program concludes here, tonight. Today, Krakow faces some new problems. Some people still think of Krakow in the time of this dragon. And many people often think of the main square. This is a place rich with history and heritage, but also somewhat conservative and skeptical of change, let alone innovation and disruption. And much of Europe still thinks of Krakow as nice and cheap. This is good, but not enough. We need to improve. This city needs to be a city where people want to relocate to advance their careers, their business, live a culturally rich life, and have low admin for being here. As a community, we've added a layer of technology and entrepreneurship to the fabric of this city. And the key visual of this event is an attempt to visually communicate Krakow as an innovation center and make a positive impact on the brand of this city, because we need to improve the brand for our ecosystem to grow. An innovative Krakow Forum is largely about growth of the entire ecosystem. In May of this year, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, an international think tank, released a report on the Małopolska entrepreneurship ecosystem. They did a lot of high-level research and analysis that gave us a ready roadmap for growth, and it identified 3 main areas where we need to improve: ambition, entrepreneurial networks, and sustainability. These are not my ideas. These are international think tank ideas. So let's break that down. First one, ambition. To me, and this is sort of my interpretation, borrowing heavily from the report, is we need bigger missions, think about bigger markets, and strive for more. At the foundation supporting OMG Krakow, we set the huge mission of building a world-class innovation ecosystem in Krakow. It's aspirational, even for us. But when we look at today's event, we can be confident we are on the right track. Each of these panels is really about growth, about more. The opening panel is about more leadership. It's followed by a panel on more corporate engagement. We have a panel with women and foreign founders for more diversity. There's a panel on attracting more capital and more investors. Our keynote speaker, who joined us from Berlin, makes the case that we need more Europe. And our Demo Day Pre-Accelerator is about more startups, where we worked on this idea of bigger mission and bigger market. Second, improved entrepreneurial networks. There's two parts here, ecosystem and trust. The word ecosystem is a word borrowed from biology regarding the environment available for life and growth, and a good innovation ecosystem needs all parts working. At today's event, you can find many of those parts: entrepreneurs, corporations, investors, organizations, academics, service providers, media, public institutions. And we hope that the diversity of this event allows for unique cross-pollination and the blooming of innovative new ideas. Today, we're in this comfortable setting, and we have a structured program where you have the opportunity to get to know each other face to face. And this is important. Get to know each other, get to know the panelists, spend time in the matchmaking zone, and please go deeper than just a transactional exchange. Get to know if your values align, if your processes align. And the best way to build trust is to simply start working on something together. Trust is important because with higher trust, you can take greater risks and move more quickly. Finally, third, sustainability. We, as an innovation community, need to organize better. This includes you, and this includes you. Yes, you. Each and every one of us needs to add a mid and long-term investment in the ecosystem to our portfolio, because these are the ones that deliver the greatest return. They do take some time. Currently, the government is the biggest investor in the ecosystem, and we appreciate your support. But the private and business community needs to do more if our innovation ecosystem is to grow. At the foundation supporting OMG Krakow, a game changer for us has been the growth of our membership model, which now accounts for nearly half of our budget. I want to thank our stakeholder, Wave Growth, for their leadership support of this event as well. In addition to a degree of financial sustainability, members deliver huge value added with mentorship and feedback. You know what you need better than anyone else. In addition, here we need to take a page from our corporate friends like Aspire and ABSL, who have dramatically transformed the Polish and Krakow economy for their interests because they have been able to work together on long-term goals while competing in the short term. As a community, we're entering a stage of development where we need to do the same for our agenda. And let us apply this principle of sustainability today at the Innovative Krakow Forum. I challenge you to do more today than just exchange some business cards, eat some snacks, and take photo for social media. Although, of course, do that too. I challenge you to be ambitious, to build trust, to make a deal to work with someone well into the future. I challenge you to design a proof of concept and test a relationship that will have you working together at the start of next year. I challenge you to be a mentor, an angel investor, an early adopter. For our part, OMG Krakow will be making a detailed summary of your key conclusions about this event, and we'll be doing extensive follow-up as we plan for our 2020. All right. So with all that said, I just want to give you a few more details about the event, say some thank yous, and then introduce our first panel. So regarding the structure of the panel, each panel will start at the beginning of the hour with the MC introducing the moderator. We've given the moderators a fair amount of discretion as to how they want to run the panel, and they will introduce the panelists. Panels will go for about 45 minutes and then be opened up for the audience questions. This is a forum, so please contribute to the discussion. We have many mics here. Some panels will conclude with a formal announcement or a startup pitch. The agenda is available on omgkarake.com/IKF. Now we know that the informal part of any event is just as necessary, fun, and valuable as the formal part, and this is why we have an entire floor for the matchmaker zone. Most panelists, either before or after their panel, are available for you in the matchmaking zone that is sort of organized by similar institutions. On omgcaracade.com/IKF-matchmaker, you can find the full timetable, which will also be displayed on the projector on the wall down there. The OMG Caracade team has identified some priority matches who institutions would like to fast track in the matchmaker zone. Some of these will be listed on the landing page. However, overall, it's first come, first serve. And we ask for you to please keep your meetings efficient. All right, so to the thank you part, I want to again very much thank the City of Krakow for your support. This event would not be possible without the financial support of the City of Krakow. In addition, we're supported by over 30 OMG Caracade members. Today, Wave Growth has taken the leadership in also supporting this event. I want to thank all our panelists. There are many of you, many coming from beyond Krakow to join us here for their time and their value added to this event. I want to thank you as an audience because I know you could be at the office today working on your products and services, but instead you're at this event. And we want to deliver on the promise that this event is worth your time. This event also would not be possible without the OMG Caracade operations team. Here is Head of Growth Dominika Walec, who you'll meet shortly, Marketing and Communications Manager Kurti Spinoff, our awesome associates Miłosz and Kirti, and our volunteers Aisha, Ashlyn, and Maciej. And of course, I want to thank all the stakeholders, scale-up, and community members that support the foundation supporting OMG Caracade. All right, so that's my long intro trying to frame this event for us. Here I'm now switching to the first panel, Toward an Innovative Krakow. And this panel is largely about ideas big and small. And I've invited two gentlemen here who I think are worthy of the task to join us here. And I'm going to introduce you, and you guys can come on stage and I'll join you. So first we have Wojciech Przybylski, CEO of Krakow Technology Park. Round of applause. And in addition, we have Przemek Berendt, founder of Talent Alpha. All right, you guys have microphones? As a final note for everybody here, after all that intro, is that we are business people, startups, service providers who are doing an event. We're not event producers, managers, or organizers. So I do appreciate your patience and flexibility should there be some technical challenge or the mics are something's up with that. We've tried our best to make this as high production an event for you as possible. This is a professional but relaxed setting, and we're all doing our best. So just a little bit of patience and understanding should it be necessary during the day is all we ask. All right, so with that disclaimer, all right, so thank you so much for being here today, guys. And as we were talking before the panel, I invited you here for two reasons. One is, Przemek, you as the founder of Talent Alpha, I would have to say, I look at your LinkedIn and I have to say that you're a globetrotter. You just said that you spent almost 2 out of the last 10 years traveling and extensively on the global event circuit for Talent Alpha. And I think that you have a unique perspective to see what's going on in the big world, the big trends, economic and also political. I want to start this panel by using doing the really big thoughts and then working our way down to this event in Krakow. I was wondering if you can sort of check in with us and give us a report what you're seeing out there in the world, in the business world, in the global economy. What's really happening?
Sure. I mean, before I try to draw, good morning, everyone. Before I try to draw a future vision, I think it's worthwhile to actually set it in the proper context. So yes, it's a fact. I actually track it very diligently, all of my business travel, and the 645 days that I'm currently on is just the business travel over the past decade. For those of you who don't know me, I actually come from the corporate world and just moved into the startup world about a year ago, which on its own has been a fascinating journey. But a big chunk of my travel has been actually around the globe over the years, meeting both business as well as startups, also as academia and NGOs around the world. And I wanted to kind of draw a bigger picture at how to basically benchmark Krakow, because I think everything in life is relative, right? And our assessment of how innovative Krakow is, I think, needs to be put in the proper context and the proper relation. If we benchmark ourselves against San Francisco or Singapore, we could argue that there are ways for us to catch up, right? But we need to remember that as a country and as a city, we come actually from 50 years of being not having the freedom of growing our entrepreneurship. I've been coming to Krakow. I'm actually not native to Krakow. I moved to Krakow from Warsaw about a decade ago, but I've been coming here my entire life. I have my family here, born in Poland. I've been traveling here every summer. And it's amazing to observe, if you apply this broad perspective, on how the city developed. I actually went to school down in Nowy Sącz, to the School of Business National University. So I've been commuting through the city a lot since 2002. And again, it's just the infrastructure itself has already developed to the way that someone who hasn't been in the city for 10 years or 20 years, they wouldn't recognize it. And I'm saying that because it is important to put Krakow on the map and also kind of look at this broader trajectory on how the city is developing, right? Again, if we benchmark ourselves against Singapore or San Francisco, yes, they are years ahead, but they had probably 50 or 70 years of development that we didn't have a chance to enjoy. But if we benchmark ourselves against Kiev or Minsk, right, or Bucharest, then I would claim that we are actually way more advanced. And there are a couple of factors that I think bring us to this stage. We've been actually privileged to join the EU 15 years ago and have been the biggest net beneficiary of the EU budgets. But we've been also very bullish in using and applying them. Those of you who remember the first EU funds, the famous 8.1, some could argue that it was waste of money. I actually claim it was an excellent exercise. Not only it pumped a lot of money into the economy, but we got on a fast track of learning on how to run a business and startups. And Wojtek is laughing. He probably remembers those beautiful times, huh? Now, I think we are now entering yet another stage of our development, right? Where we went through the first wave of startups, hundreds of them or thousands of them failed, right? I think we are now entering into a stage where the ecosystem is being born as we speak. And what I mean by that is that people who had a chance to build their careers in large enterprises, corporations, are now have enough understanding of the market and enough of kind of fundamental skills to make those businesses happen. On top of that, the new generation who's entering the market, they don't have some of the luggage that our generation carried. I consider myself a Xillennial, so kind of between the generation X and millennial. We've seen kind of both of the worlds, the Soviet communism times and the growth of the open economy. I think the generation that is now leaving universities, they don't have some of the complexities and that we used to have. And I was surprised to hear that ambition is one of the things that we lack, but I think as a nation, that's probably the last thing I would say about Poles, right? I don't think we've been at any time in our history modest or we didn't have ambition. I would claim that actually sometimes we are overly ambitious and we need to watch that. But it's all kind of drawing a nice kind of curve of trajectory of our growth. It's kind of trying to take it to what I think the future holds. I think right now we are in a very interesting kind of peak point where the ecosystem is converging to be ready for the next stage of development. What I mean by that is that the talent is out there, and it's a fundamental need of any ecosystem to thrive. The talent is finally there. People are educated. They are familiar with how to conduct the business on a global basis. They have the necessary skills, frameworks, and experiences to do that. Our academia has been always strong, but I feel as if it's been lagging behind actually growing those entrepreneurs to the new level, and hopefully they will open up their mind and adopt the programs. The infrastructure is here on the kind of hard infrastructure, and we'll be talking about it with Wojtek, and it's absolutely amazing that we can access assets like that. The financing is slowly hitting the street. Actually, the access to money is easier in Poland, in my opinion, than in other countries, and we've been with our project around the globe, showing it in the US, in Germany, in London. We got offers, but we ended up taking the money here in Poland. But there's way more to be done, right? For example, on the infrastructure, right? Some of the most progressive cities in the world, they are creating their own APIs. The city has an API. Basically, as a startup, you can tap into any asset or any data point the city has at its possession, right? There are cities who are creating blockchains, right? Or there are cities that are providing internet infrastructure for free, which is basically shifting these cities around, right? When it comes to talent, again, there is lots we can do to catch up. Our academic programs, they are still kind of looking backwards, right? Whereas I think we should think on how we can make them more open and actually stimulate the exchange of knowledge between the business, the startup, and the academia. I'm actually, I've been always a big ambassador of Poland. I actually came back to Poland after my studies in the US in 2002. I was offered to stay, but I always felt that we would have bigger and better opportunities here. And I feel I made the right bet. Like looking where we are, me personally, and also my career, I've never regretted that decision because I think we are living through a fairly amazing time. You know, we've been enjoying this economic growth pretty much uninterrupted. The borders have been opened. The access to knowledge is at the place where it hasn't been before. So I'm actually envy of my kids because I'd like to see, the opportunities that they are going to have. I'm going to pause here because I want to give Wojtek some stage. So.
Before I ask the first question of Wojciech, I wanted to ask that when you're traveling around the world and people ask, where's your company based? And do you say Krakow?
We start with Poland, yes. Okay. We actually have 2 locations, so Krakow and Poland, and in Warsaw, that's where we have offices, but we have now team also in London, so we have a person working with us from London, and actually a number of people who are distributed around Poland, right? So we're kind of trying to mix the physical locations, but also people who are working remotely.
I just wanted to ask, when you say that you're from Krakow, in the big world out there, what is like the thing that pops into people's mind? What do they say? How strong is the Krakow brand globally? Is it relevant? Is it positive, negative? How would you rank it based on the responses you get?
I think among of all of the Polish brands, Lech Wałęsa and Pop included, I think Krakow scores probably in the top 5, and the emotions it carries, they're always very positive. Yeah, so it is considered a good place to go from tourist purposes, which again is a great fundament, in my opinion, to continue building on. And then if you look at the business services industry, right, that I've been part of for the past 2 decades almost, Krakow actually has been probably the least active on a city level to attract this business, yet it has been the fastest growing city among all, right, which I think it can be credited well to the brand itself, but also to the broader ecosystem, including the academia. Thank you.
Wojciech, so I invited you because you're in the leadership team of Krakow Technology Park. This is one of, if not the leading institution working on innovation in our city and in our region. So I imagine you have, I hope you have a wide portfolio of tools that you can do to, let's say, empower or manage or channel innovation. But once again, starting with the big question and getting smaller, Przemek just gave us a sort of global perspective, but we just had European elections, Polish national elections. I think Krakow Technology Park, is it subject to these greater European and national trends? And how are they impacting Krakow Technology Park plan for the next year or moving forward?
Okay, good morning everybody. Maybe before I answer your question, I wanted to comment very shortly on Przemek's speech. I'm more than happy and I hope we are more than happy to have you here in Krakow, moving from Warsaw. The usual journey is the opposite one, and it's one, I guess, of the main challenges we face as a community. I will come to that later, but it's really great to have you here, both as like a Warsaw comer and a person from the corporate world, because it's also one of the key changes I observe in last 10 years, as long as I'm like active in this area. But answering Paul's question precisely, I'm not sure if we are not the subject of these changes, of these political changes. I don't know if it's a general issue for this panel, honestly, but of course we are a public company, yeah? Krakow Technology Park is a public-owned company. Our main stakeholder is the Polish state treasury, and of course it means we are also a subject of all these changes. Not much has changed. It means at KTP, I hope we'll keep moving in the same directions we are moving we have been moving in for the last years. But I think the more important issue is if the general public policy on innovation, entrepreneurship, technology, and economy in general is going to change or not. Yeah. And I think it will not change a lot, and I think it will evolve in the good direction, hopefully. And you should consider us as a tool of the state to do stuff in this matter, yeah? And you should consider KTP as a tool to help companies grow faster. It's how we describe ourselves, and that's what we try to do. And you've told the audience about like a broad portfolio of tools that we have, and of course it's true, and it also shows this evolution in the last 10 years, because KTP started 22 years ago, in fact, as a special economic zone operator, so working mainly with large businesses, inviting investors to come to Krakow and Małopolska region. But then, as a technology park per se, we started to work more or less 11 or 12 years ago. Still, it was before it became a fashion to support innovative companies. Yeah, now everybody is doing innovations, but that time we were indeed one of the first one, like the very dinosaurs of this ecosystem in Krakow. Together, I don't know, with Richard Lucas or Marek Kapturkiewicz, or really these guys who started this whole movement many years ago. And looking at the tools we have, it really changed a lot. So we started this 11 or 12 years ago with very simple stationary incubation programs. Maybe the first seed fund started a bit later on, but these were really fundamental, very easy tools. We tried to convince people wherever we could, mainly in the academic world, to run their own businesses, to enter into this pool. Now it's not like nothing maybe shocking to go and start your career in a startup, but 10 years ago it was really like a deep jump, yeah? And we helped to do that. Right now we have a lot of tools to support startups, and most of these tools are located not at the very beginning of their entrepreneurial way, but a bit later on. And I hope that right now we have more or less everything a technology park should have. So from various incubation and acceleration programs dedicated to specific verticals, like Industry 4.0 or game dev, or using satellite data, yeah, so sometimes very like narrowly oriented verticals. We have two seed funds, one is more like startup oriented, one is more deep tech oriented. Of course we have all the infrastructure and offices and co-workings and laboratories from multimedia, and we have a data center and own cloud and everything. And we also do much more like in services like mentoring, advisory, trainings, and also internationalization, because it's one of the biggest challenges the companies we work for face every day. So we have been growing together with the Krakow ecosystem, and I hope we have become mature together with Krakow ecosystem, because the biggest change I observe, like in this 10 years perspective, is the average age of a startup funder now in Krakow is more or less 10 years more than it used to be 10 years ago. Yeah. So the average company that is entering Krakow Technology Park as a startup right now is funded by people who are more or less Przemek's age, maybe 35, a bit younger, I guess, sorry, but not that younger than you. And 10 years ago, these were really usually, these were students. Or alumni who just finished their studies. Yeah, and it's a really big change. But it also creates a lot of challenges if we also look on what's happening at the labor market. Yeah, because right now most of the companies are competing very strongly with large corpo for the same talents, and it's one of the biggest challenges I believe we face both as a Polish economy and as a Krakow ecosystem.
Thank you for that, and let's return to the labor market. But so, if I heard you correctly, that let's say approximately European and national policy is largely stable. We can consider an evolution, not a revolution there.
Yeah. So maybe just to tackle this point, there is one like serious both narration and tool. You know, like the European policies on economy and in fact on everything are driven by some political narrations. Yeah, and like I feel that the leading narration for the next coming EU funding perspective would be digitalization of everything. Yeah. So both manufacturing, services, everything. So the Industry 4.0 is one of these aspects, but it will be much, much broader. Like, and the very new, brand new framework of support that will be funded by EU funds will be something called Digital Innovation Hubs, DIH. And this should be like specialized platforms that help companies, mainly SMEs, to digitalize their activities in all possible aspects. Yeah, so it's like one new poster or topic which is coming from EU policies. A part of that, I believe, will have more or less stabilization. So we'll have funds both for R&D, like non-refundable, and capital funding for not only startups, but I hope for larger and more adult startups, because like 5 years ago we have mainly pre-seed money. Now it's quite easy in Poland to get funding up to, let's say, 5, maybe 10 million zloty. You managed to find a bit more, but honestly speaking, still like a typical Silicon Valley Series A is still to be funded outside Poland, and it's something we need to work on also with help of EU money.
If I can jump in, I think this kind of political picture is bittersweet, right? And depending on which time perspective you apply, I think I would rank it differently. I agree, like from the longer term perspective, I think probably not much will change and will benefit greatly the economy as well as the startup ecosystem, though there are also some great local initiatives, you know, the funding of the Polski Fundusz Rozwoju, the PFR, definitely a great move. You know, a lot of money was pumped into the ecosystem and actually managed in a very well thought through way. And I think you agree with that. Though there are kind of minor signals that are making basically entrepreneurship quite difficult and actually forecasting the business even in the next year tricky, right? And here one of the examples is the famous 30x Zeus multiplication, right? Which is how much social security tax companies will have to pay on the labor employees, right? And up until now, and we're already in the middle of October, we have no idea what next year is going to hold. I mean, it's the government put it down in the budget. Now there are some discussions that one of the coalition members of the right wing can actually ban it, which makes it super tricky for us to plan the business, right? And I remember when this idea was first kind of created, I was still back in my corporate world. I actually met as a representative of ABSL with Premier Morawiecki, and we discussed that introducing a change like that so late in the year is basically so destructive to running a business, because we don't know, like, you know, how the employment costs will structure, and they are doing it yet again, right? Like the fiscal year is ending, right? Everybody is locking down their plans, and this kind of political instability doesn't allow us to operate. So I treat it more as a noise, and I think eventually it will settle down and the market will find its way to optimize itself, but it definitely doesn't help entrepreneurship. You know, us Poles being very entrepreneurial, we actually have this verb that I think none other language has, which is kombinować. We know how to kombinować. I think we'll find a ways to optimize even the employment cost, right? And you can already see like early signals, which I think are negative of that happening, like people moving their businesses, you know, to Lithuania or Czech Republic or to London, just so they can conduct the business much easier way. I think if we didn't have that noise, the trajectory would be even better. I also wanted to pay credit to KPT because we've been a tenant as Talent Alpha of KPT, which I think it's a great platform to begin your entrepreneurial journey. Not only it helps you to streamline your cash flows, which are so critical. Probably the number one thing you need to worry about if you're a startup person in the beginning is your cash flow. It's basically the amount of air you have to breathe, right? And whether it's 2 months, 3 months, or 12 months, depends on how quickly you are breathing or burning the money. And having a partner like KPT definitely helps, but it's way more than just that, right? Like it is an ecosystem. We actually, as we were tenant in the building, we met so many other startup founders and employees, and the exchange of ideas where we could share with them some of our experiences and they shared some ideas with us is basically natural. And kudos to you guys and thank you for letting us being there.
So I want to now bring it to a little bit more local level, and I'm hearing a positive story where KPT has all the tools Tech Park needs approximately to be successful, and here we have Talent Alpha who just went through the sort of Krakow Technology Park pipeline and recently sort of grew out of it as a successful case study. So this is a really strong positive example. So bringing it to what we can do at a local level, because here we talked a little about global, Europe, national, but really our power and our agency is a little bit more at the local level. And what are some initiatives or programs that need to happen to further accelerate the entrepreneurship and really disruptive new technologies here? On the behalf of OMG KRK, we've tried to introduce sort of two initiatives here. One is, and it's interesting that you said that Krakow enjoys a strong brand despite relatively uncoordinated PR or outbound effort on either City of Krakow or the foundation supporting OMG KRK. We've only now are starting a sort of, with an event like this, a little bit more of marketing Krakow outbound, trying to work on the brand, trying, when people think of Krakow, to think, yes, tourism, economic advantages, but also as a unique and innovative place on its own ground. So a little bit of city branding. And in addition to the membership model, where basically the community is more formally organized, has some sort of decision-making process, has some budget to execute some sort of program, and really just has a vehicle to advance its agenda. So what do you think are these two efforts valuable? Are they something that we as a community and OMG KRK should continue in the next year? Let's say a sort of city branding effort along with scaling the membership?
Oh, by all means, I think you guys have been doing an amazing job and there is so much more to be done, right? So I think in general, great things happen when people come together and they talk, right? So you are creating that platform of opinion and knowledge exchange. Where I think we should focus is actually making this group even more diverse. It's great to see how diverse OMG KRK team is. I think it's a great start. But even in the room, we should probably have more academia representatives. We should have more government representatives as well as the corporates, right? For example, artists as well. I think what I observe happening in other parts of the world is actually when all of these communities come together and they tackle either a set of general topics or a very specific problem, great things are being born. And I think that's probably something that we should put all together on the map. So for example, the fact that, I'm not sure how many founders we have in the room here, but there are some great companies in Krakow that are already kind of world famous, right? Whether it's Cinerise or Salesmenago, Contact.io, I think their CEOs should pay back to the community and being here as well, actually encouraging the next generation, right? They're so busy building the business globally, rightly so, that's their main job, right? But I think a fraction of it should be paying back to the community and their presence. And this also applies to the corporates, right? I actually know probably 80% of the heads of the outsourcing businesses here in Krakow. I'm not sure if I see any of them in the room, right? And they should be here. It should be in their interest to be here for a couple of reasons. Not only their people are thinking about actually joining this camp, right? So they should be aware of what's cooking up. But more importantly, perhaps there is next UI path sitting here in the room that can actually dramatically change their business. For those of you who are not familiar with UI path, one of the best and probably most famous startups out of Romania, right? Valued at 7 billion right now, looking into robotic process automation. This business grew out of the outsourcing business, right? We should see stories like that in Krakow, and it can only happen when the community works together.
So I have one more question, and then I want to open up to the audience if someone has an idea for an innovative Krakow. And I wanted to return to the labor market, which you mentioned, because I also have heard you say in previous events that one of Krakow's competitive advantage is the human capital and a relatively deep talent pool that's just fully engaged. What are some ideas on growing and strengthening the talent pool? Here today we have an agenda of, let's say, attracting this from somewhere else, because we can develop it bottom up. That's takes time, and in addition, a strategy to have more talent come here. It's interesting why some of the other top startups aren't here is that there's very little, the feedback from them is that there's very little value that they are getting for their business here, and really the only thing that they're particularly interested in their short-term goal is this recruitment. What is, so for sure we need to grow, because if we're only competing for the existing talent and it's a zero-sum game, that'd be a bad outcome. Do you have any ideas on how we can expand the labor pool here in Krakow, so there's more account managers, full stack developers? So what's a breakthrough we can have on the talent front?
Yeah, I think in labor market, easy solutions and breakthroughs are not that easy at all. Yeah, because these are large-scale processes that are happening, and at the regulatory level, most of the tools are on the national level or even at the EU level. Yeah, and I think we should talk mainly about issues that we can tackle here and which are affordable for Krakow as a city and for the regional authorities maybe. Yeah, and for us as actors on this field, person by person. And of course, at the national level, some things are happening. I have some hopes concerning the reform of the academic sector that was concluded in the last 2 years, in fact, that tried to push people working in academia not only in the direction of scientific excellence and quality, but also in the direction of businesses. And I hope we will have some fruits of that, but it's also rather a long-term policy and long-term issue, and it won't help Krakow businesses now. Yeah, and this major drop of unemployment, and we have in fact 2 or 3% of unemployment in Krakow, as you know, and the fact that people are competing for talents all the time and startups with corpos and so on, it's both obstacle and a chance, yeah? Because of course it's not easy for startups to hire and to scout for talents when we have 60 or 70,000 people working for corpos in Krakow, BPO, SSC, but not only, also more and more technology corpus, and in fact the last wave of investments we had in Krakow and in the region are it's no longer that strongly BPO. It's companies I don't know, Aptiv, ABB, Jacobs, and so on. Yeah, so people scouting for engineers, yeah, and not only for people who can work for businesses and business development in all possible areas, finance, not only. But generally speaking, I think the only chance we have is to pull talent from outside, yeah? Because of course the universities will try to adapt and they will try to educate more and more people, and maybe they will focus more and more on this parts or verticals of the labor market. There is a desperate need for new talents, but I believe we just need to pull talents from abroad, and with abroad I don't mean only Rzeszów or Katowice or Warsaw. Thank you, Przemek.
I'm actually from Toruń originally.
From Toruń, even farther. I mean attracting talents from outside Poland, and with outside Poland, I do not only mean Ukraine, which is a huge factor that helped us, not only Kraków, but generally Polish economy. We have, I believe, more than 1.5 million people working in Polish economy right now, coming from Ukraine. We need to attract talents on larger scale from everywhere. Yeah.
So I want to stop you there,
Yeah.
because we're in luck, because today at, I believe it's 15, we have a panel titled How to Attract Foreign Talent, with foreign talent that's making a positive impact here in Krakow.
So
But
I just want to tell what the local authorities can do with that, because in fact one of the few tools we have as Krakow as a city or the regional authority is like the business marketing we have and the identity of Krakow outside of Poland, and I'm a bit more pessimistic than Przemek in this area. I'm afraid that Krakow is not considered as a startup community globally. Maybe a bit, maybe for people who are interested or scouting startups, they know a bit about Krakow, but generally speaking, I think that Krakow is recognized as a touristic destination. I think Krakow is recognized as a BPO destination, of course, after all the Tolon's rankings and so on. But we are still not recognized as a startup destination, mainly because there is no single global startup brand that came from Krakow. Yeah, the only Polish startup brand that came from our country is in fact CD Projekt, and in fact not CD Projekt, it's Witcher. I'm also pessimistic here. I'm afraid that the brands that are recognized globally is not the Pope and Lech Wałęsa. I think it's The Witcher and Robert Lewandowski. But anyway, I'm happy that we have
So that
Witcher
depends in which target group.
on board. Exactly, it
My
depends on the age.
My favorite is Chopin.
But anyway, I think there's a lot to do on that. Maybe we need to have a company like Skype coming to Krakow, from Krakow, to really change it. But still, there is a lot of things that can help us not to market Krakow as a great tourist destination or a great destination for BPOs, but also a great destination for people who want to work on technology, in technology-intensive businesses, not necessarily in startups, also in technology-intensive corporates. Yeah?
Two very brief comments.
Okay, and then we're going to give the last word to the audience.
One regarding the founders that we discussed of the other startups. I think it's not always about what's in it for you. Sometimes it's about paying it forward, actually, so the next can thrive. And I think they should keep that in mind. Two, I'm fully subscribed to the comment that Krakow can grow on the foreigners. Actually, I met Zach just this morning, who came here from the US. And from my experience, there are thousands of Zachs here in Krakow, but it's happening to the city kind of by accident. It's not happening by design. And I think this is what the city should fix, right? There should be programs promoting Krakow kind of as a great place to live for foreigners. I think honestly, and I apologize to say that, but I think it's a shame that the opening keynote is happening in Polish, right? If we have an international crowd, the city needs to step up the game and consider itself to be a part of a bigger global network and play on that stage, right? Which requires not only funding, but actually requires a right level of thinking and English competence. Oh, I thought my mic was cut off for that comment.
No. So I did try to lay out the rules in the opening that we would have time for the audience to engage in, because this is a forum. So do we have anyone who wants to, more of a comment, because we're running out of time, but if someone has an idea for an innovative Krakow, especially one that they're working on, as opposed to speculating on one. Is there anyone? Okay, so we have one here. Yes, here the mic comes. In reaching the conclusions of our panel, something we need to do is build the Krakow brand, and the best way to do it is for a company to go global from here, if I'm hearing that correctly.
Of course, it's one important issue. The second one, we still should encourage people coming from universities directly, not always to fund their own startups, because I really believe it's better to go the Przemek's way. So start to work in a large company, learn a lot, and then to found your first company. But anyway, you should encourage people working in living studies, also to consider working for small-scale technology companies. Yeah.
Okay, if you can give us your name and an organization, if you can introduce yourself and then comment or question.
All right. Hi, everyone. Maybe I'll move over here. My name is Amanda Chalupa. I'm from Montreal. Est-ce qu'il y a des personnes qui parlent français ici? Bonjour. I am so impressed by by what I've seen so far. And I think if I may just take 30 to 90 seconds to say, I kind of do this in Montreal. I'm also a PhD student in cultural psychiatry. I'm Polish heritage, but the Polonia that I've been exposed to isn't really into startups. So I feel like I found a bit of a family here, and it's really refreshing. I have so many ideas for programs, and one of my goals being in Poland right now on a sort of business trip is to find ways to bridge Poland and Montreal in particular, because Canada is huge, and there are different ecosystems, but the Montreal ecosystem is something really special. So if anyone wants to talk about how to do that on policy levels, on government levels, in terms of academia, entrepreneurship, investor, coordination, just anything, like literally everything that is being said, there are 10 ideas that are coming out for each of them. So I would love to talk to anyone about any of this. I'm going to be around all day. Come find me, and let's make this happen. I would love to find a way to bridge Krakow and Montreal. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good one. Anyone else want to, or should we close the panel on that note? On that note.
I'll just throw that I think that we will see a Skype or this type of a success coming out of Poland and Krakow over the next decade. I think we have all of the right components for that to happen. Hopefully the policy will be supporting that as we go forward, and we don't lack ambition. We just need to put that ambition into motion, and we need to bring others to help us make that happen. And by others, I mean people from abroad.
So here I will be more optimistic at that point. I would say not a decade, I would say 5 years. I'm really expecting in 5 years a really unicorn coming from Krakow.
I need to speed up, man.
And you are one of the, exactly.
Hurry up, Przemek. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.